Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaskar. Friends, in the last episode of the Garden of Yoga Vasishta, we saw the arising of two seekers after truth, after liberation. And their quest was not a temporary turning away from the world of individuals, of humans, due to circumstances that may have been unfavorable, but rather it had arisen from a deep reflection on the human condition. And we also saw two factors that go into the making of an eligible student. The factors being observation and deep reflection. And sage Valmiki said to Arishtanemi that he would resolve his dilemma by narrating to him the story of Rama, which he had earlier narrated to his disciple Bharadwaj. And we also remember that it was Brahmaji himself who came and told Valmiki to narrate the story of Rama and Vasishta to rid the world of sorrow and boredom of repetitive existence and experience a meaningful life. Here we go a little bit into the text and see how it is structured, and the teaching is divided into 6 sections. The first is the chapter on dispassion. It deals with Ram's despondency, about his being a little dejected with the affairs of the world. And the second is this chapter on the qualification and the behavior of a student, of a seeker after truth. The next section, the Utpatti Prakaranam, deals with existence, with creation and its illusoriness, and the next fourth one deals with existence, and it's about the substratum of the universe. Then comes the section on cessation, and the last section on liberation shows how delusions are destroyed, and all in all, the text is made up of 32,000 couplets. Swami Venkateshananda's Supreme Yoga gives us the teachings in a succinct and lucid manner, but even this abbreviated version needs to be studied over and over again for us to actually enter into, for us that its teaching may actually enter into our subconscious. Valmiki said that Rama, the son of King Dashrath, after completing his studies at the Gurukula, approached his father and asked for something. Now, he didn't ask for a luxurious palace for himself or a brand new BMW or a trip to Europe. What he asked for was to go on a pilgrimage and visit all the sacred spaces, experience the sacred geography of the land, and meet some learned sages, and also see how the people in general lived in the land. And of course, the king happily granted his request. The Prince Rama, along with his brothers, toured the country from the Himalayas to Kanyakumari, from east to west, visiting holy places and paying homage to learned sages and to learned persons. And along the way, out of the palace precincts, he would have also observed how the common people in his kingdom lived. Now here we are reminded of the young prince Siddhartha, who went through a similar experience, perhaps, before he came to be the Buddha. After a few months, on the return of the brothers, there was great rejoicing in the kingdom. Rama too was happy to be back, but soon a profound change took place in him. He began to show signs of deep despondency. He stopped taking interest even in the day-to-day activities of the palace. No pleasures attracted him. He just went around morosely, muttering to himself, What is the use of all this? What is the meaning of life? Word reached the king that the heir apparent shows no interest in any royal activity, and he does not even give attention to his own body or to the food that is served to him. He was just absorbed unto himself, muttering something to himself. The worried king approached the royal sage Vasishta, who said, "No change, particularly in a noble soul, takes place without any reason." And around the same time, the king was visited by Rishi Vishwamitra. The king duly welcomed him and asked him the reason for his visit, and that whatever he wished for, he should consider that granted. The sage said that he was carrying out a yajna, a great ritual for the welfare of all sentient beings, but he was continuously disturbed by two demons who kept desecrating the sacred spaces. And the sage said that having taken a vow of non-violence while performing the yajna, he himself could not deal with the demons, that he had to ask for Rama and Lakshmana to be made available to him to deal with them. The king was much perturbed at the request. He said that Rama had not even reached 16 years of age yet, and he was just a young boy. How could he confront deadly demons whose cruelty and power were known all over? He said that he himself was willing to accompany the sage along with his big army. But how could two young boys protect him from these ferocious demons? With this, Vishwamitra was very disappointed at this diffidence of King Dasharath. And at that, the royal mentor Vasishta said that it was not right for the king to go back on his word. He had agreed to fulfill the wishes of Vishwamitra, and that the sage would not ask for something that would not be beneficial for the king and for his kingdom. That Vishwamitra himself was adept in the art of warfare, and that he would teach the boys certain techniques that they would not be able to learn from anywhere else. So, an attendant was sent to request Rama to present himself before the king and the rishis. Before leaving, the attendant had apprised the king and the courtiers about Ram's condition. He said he is bereft of hope, of any desire. He is not attached to anything. He keeps repeating, "What is the use of wealth? What's the use of kingdom? What's the use of ambition?" Hearing this, even Vishwamitra said that this was not ordinary dejection or delusion, that the words of Rama displayed a deeper awakening. When Ram came to the court, he bowed to his father and the preceptors. His pale face shone with maturity. And on being asked by the sages as to what made him so dejected, Ram laid out a long list of all things in the world that made life appear meaningless. He said, "We are aimlessly wandering in a dense forest called this world," and he was disillusioned by its transitoriness. He said, "All beings in this world take birth but to die, and they die to be born again. And I do not perceive any meaning in all these transient phenomena which are the roots of suffering and sin. That people are suffering and destitute, and yet no one makes a sincere and earnest attempt to get to the root of that misery." He said, "Everything in this world is dependent upon the mind. And on examination, the mind itself appears to be unreal, but we are bewitched by it." Yeah, we know that the entity called the mind, if we try to look for it, we cannot find it. We are aware of thoughts and emotions, but the entity, the mind in which they arise, we cannot actually find it anywhere. We can go looking for it, but it deludes us. Rama mourned that though we do not find any object called the mind, yet we are enslaved by it, that it is an elusive instrument that is subject to the vicissitudes of irrational likes and dislikes. Yeah, immediately it begins to be attracted to something or is repulsed by something, and there is not always a rationale behind that. And that it is subject to emotional distress, and the roots of which are not quite tangible. More than half of the first section consists of Rama's monologue or soliloquy on the meaningless and dreariness of life. He examines every facet of life, tangible as well as subtle. He lays bare the different stages of life, such as childhood, youth, old age, etc., each of which is flawed by its own shortcomings, turning the individual into a puppet in the hands of change and time. He analyzes the mind, he analyzes time that has the power to destroy everything. The words of young Rama are imbued with deep understanding of all that is visible and also invisible. But while he displays deep dejection, he is not depressed. In depression, we accept the situation as it is and we feel helpless and we say, oh, we cannot do anything about it, and we give in to the situation and remain depressed and dejected. But Rama does not show helplessness. He seeks a way out of the situation. He knows that his heroic ancestors had faced similar situations and that they had come out of it, and that Rama also seeks a method whereby he can come out of that situation, of his dejection. So, in the next episodes, we will see how Ram's rumination makes us also ponder over the truth of life. Meanwhile, we should reflect over things that engage our minds and maybe disturb our minds, and perhaps note them down. Hari Om.